I said that the length of the appendix is around 2 to 25 centimeters, but it has an average centimeters of 6 to 9. Right? The appendix, it has been found that it does not really have any function. Right? So when you take in food, right, those who like food, if you take in food, it goes through the esophagus to the stomach, passes through the small intestine, the large intestines. When it gets the food enters the appendix, and then it is emptied from the appendix, and then it goes through. So the food is coming from the small intestine. So it passes through this valve. Some enters the appendix, and then it empties, and then it passes through the colon, and then come out. The excess will come out as fecal matter, right? So that is what it is found now, that it does not really have any function. Food enters it and it empties, right? But sometimes this appendix can become infected, right? So there are several causes of appendicitis. So infection of the appendix or inflammation of the appendix is what we term as appendicitis. That is our topic for today. So our topic for today is appendicitis, where the appendix become inflamed or the appendix become infected. So it is defined as infection or inflammation of the vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix. Most of the time it's as a result of obstruction. So anything that will cause the appendix to become obstructed. So if this is the appendix, anything that will cause obstruction or blockage of the appendix can lead to infection of the appendix. This usually results from obstruction of the lumen of the appendix. I've explained that already. Inflammation leads to infection as bacteria invade the wall of the appendix. So sometimes the obstruction can be caused by bacterial invasion. Right? Once you have a foreign body in that particular organ, right, the body recognizes the bacteria as a foreign body. So the body tries to attack the bacteria, and in the process there is inflammation. So inflammation will lead to edema, and then it can also narrow the lumen of the appendix, and then bring about infection or inflammation, which is the appendicitis we are talking about. There are several causes of appendicitis. The first cause is known as fecal. There are some people who want to postpone the urge to pass or empty the bowel. So most of the time, probably the person is doing something, and then the person thinks what he's doing is more important than he or she responding to the urge to empty the bowel. So people postpone it, and in so doing they become constipated, right? So fecality is nothing but a constipated stool. Some of the constipated stools can block the lumen of the appendix, and it can lead to obstruction, and then as well lead to appendicitis. And then another cause will be the microorganisms which I talked about. So either bacteria or viral infection can lead to inflammation or infection of the appendix, which will result to appendicitis. And again, there can be some congenital abnormalities. Sometimes there's stenosis of the appendix. So a child may be born with a narrowed appendix. Right, so that narrow part is known as stenosis, right? And this can also lead to obstruction of the appendix and result to inflammation. Sometimes worm infestation, apart from stenosis, worm infestation can also lead to appendicitis. And then also cancer of the appendix, tumors, can also block. So anything that can block the lumen of the appendix can lead to infection of the appendix, which is known as appendicitis. And we have to know that the appendix is located at the right lower quadrant. So most of the time, if you are having appendicitis, that is where mostly the pain is located. So let's look at the clinical manifestations. How will you be able to know that the person is having appendicitis? The first clinical symptom or sign is colicky, cramping, abdominal pain that is located at the McBurney's point or region. The McBurney's point or region is the part where the appendix is located, right? So it's mostly located at the right lower quadrant, and that is the McBurney's point. That is where people with appendicitis have the pain at. So it's mostly located midway between the umbilical region and the iliac crest. Your iliac crest is your ilium. When you are sitting down, you can palpate the end of your ilium, right? So when you try, as I'm doing, if you try to press your hand against your pelvic bone, you can palpate the edges. The edges is what we term as the iliac crest. So between that edges, which is the iliac crest, and then the umbilical region, the midway between them is where the McBurney's point is, and that is where most of the time the pain is located. And then sometimes, if the patient is having appendicitis, if you try palpating the part or the right lower quadrant, the person feels pain whilst when you touch the part. And then feeling of pain when that part is touched is what we term as tenderness. So apart from the person complaining of pain at that site, there can be tenderness at the right lower quadrant. Also, there can be what we term as rib-bound tenderness. Rib-bound tenderness. With rib-bound tenderness, what happens is the person does not feel the pain when the part is palpated, but the moment the examiner, be it a physician or the nurse, remove the hands after palpating, the muscles contract when the examiner relieves the pressure from that part, and that causes pain. So pain that is felt after the examiner's hand is released is what we term as rib-bound tenderness. There can also be nausea and vomiting, because it's one of the GI conditions, right? And almost all the GI conditions, the patient will come in complaining of nausea and then vomiting. The patient can also lose appetite for food, and then because it's an infection, the temperature can be high. So most of the time, the patient will have a temperature around 37.3 degrees Celsius to about 38 degrees Celsius. So check the temperature. So the person will have a low-grade fever, and then sometimes the person will have signs and symptoms of shock, hypovolemic shock. Because if this patient is vomiting and the patient is not eating, the patient experiences signs and symptoms of shock. So there can be increased pulse, which is tachycardia. There can be low BP, right? These are signs that the patient is going into shock and that we have to manage the patient. And then there is also what we term as abdominal guarding. Abdominal guarding is just as the English word is, the person, because of the pain that the person experiences, the person does not want you to touch it. So if the examiner is bringing the hand, the person will be guarding the abdomen against the examiner's hand, trying to prevent the examiner from touching the abdomen because of the pain that the person will experience. And also the abdomen becomes distended with people with appendicitis. Though the abdomen becomes enlarged, distended, the muscles become rigid, very tense, and then there's a clinical sign which we term as the Roux-Singh sign. Roux-Singh sign. So with the Roux-Singh sign, what happens is that sometimes the palpating the left lower quadrant where the pain is not produces pain at the right lower quadrant.